Jay Baba, welcome back. Welcome back. Also, big thank you to Nosh, right? The venue is perfect.
Yes.
Beloved archives never look better. Jay Baba. So it is time to introduce Mr. Allan Cohen, our guest speaker and a beloved and cherished figure in the Baba community. I'm going to read a little bit of his bio. Allan first learned of Meher Baba in 1964, soon after taking LSD while reading Baba's discourses and believing that he had reached the sixth plane. Why stop there, Allan? He, he wrote to Kitty Davy, ultimately resulting in a direct response from Meher Baba. Baba's urging, Allan gave up his drug use and became an apostle in redirecting Americans away from physical, mental, and spiritual harm of psychedelic drugs. The drug work was deemed so important by Baba that Allan and several other Baba boys dedicated the same goal and remained in constant communication with Baba even throughout times of his intense seclusion. Allan eventually became one of the top experts in the field of drug prevention. He enjoys continued collaboration with other Baba lovers, enjoys speaking and sharing at live and virtual Baba groups, and remains deeply involved in broad scope of Sufi activities and service programs. Welcome, Allan Cohen.
Jai Baba, Jai Baba. It is wonderful to be here. Wonderful to be at this place, Beloved Archives, the new version, which I haven't seen before, with Nash, home of the glow, and home of today, May 2nd, the legendary Northeast Gathering. Ah, what a history. And for those who might be listening on the Mayor channel on YouTube of Beloved Archives, and those fortunate or unfortunate enough to be listening in the future, we say hello and Jai Baba. And we are, especially to those who are learning from Mayor Baba for the first time, which I don't think there are too many people here at this gathering that qualify. Oh no, not the first time at all. Many lifetimes. Well, the fact that folks are willing to get together in Baba's love is a very, very important event. And Baba often told of the magnification of divine force that happened when people came together in his name. Now, today, whenever you're listening, a couple of disclaimers. First of all, what I'm going to talk about are some stories, but mainly some things that have interested me lately and have been of interest to Baba lovers who I've been talking with. And what I say is only my best understanding, my best interpretation of what I've learned over the last 60 years from Baba and continue to learn. So don't take it too seriously, unless it's helpful. The other thing is, my memory's not so good. So forgive me if I don't put a lot of dates to some of the references. And otherwise, I think we're going to have some fun too. I'd like to, a lot of topics came to mind, and I'll kind of mention them over the next today, and maybe tomorrow we'll get to talk about a few of them. I want to talk to you about Baba's universal work, about drugs, about mental health, about aging, and what's happening with Sufism, among other things. And you are welcome to both share and ask whatever you feel might be important or interesting. Okay? And there's going to be a lot that will be probably interesting. So I want to start out with an unusual topic. And, you know, I try as hard as I can, not too hard. I sometimes try to prepare for these talks. It's impossible. Totally Meher Baba will tell me what to say and what comes up. So forgive me if it's a little dissociated, because he'll interfere. He's very sneaky that way. First topic is one that came up, and Baba said, okay, follow one of Shilpa's stances. And it had to do with us being at a very interesting time of history. Very interesting in the world, in the East and the West. Now, first of all, let us establish for the listening office, at least the listening folks on the channel, some basics. Number one, infinite consciousness exists. Meher Baba represents and embodies the totality of infinite consciousness, but also able to work with illusion. Now here's the tough part. This whole thing is all illusory. I am in a dream right now. We think it's real, but if you really believe in Baba, this is a movie. All right? And we've got a bunch of characters. Oh, do we have a bunch of characters in this movie? And the characters are so good that they actually believe they're individual souls. Not only that, they believe they have preferences and opinions and physical and mental and social experiences, and even have interpersonal illusory relationships. Okay? And that the evolution of these individual souls through many, many, many lives comes through an exquisite architecture of impressions, of sanskaras, of physical, mental, subtle sanskaras that determine every facet of our lives. And every element and every challenge we have to put forward. But you know the script pretty well, see, your characters. And everybody's working on something. And everybody is working and has the work not only of connecting with Meher Baba and loving him better, but as important, because this is illusory, a very few minuscule percentages of the entire world population have been selected to help him do his work. And his work is being done simply by the force, the divine force, that he can bring through these fake individual characters and souls. Now, Meher Baba, as a producer, he has a very big job. The entire world and universe, including this Earth. He's got about 18,000 other things to think about on other planets, but that's the easy part. This is the tough part. So that everything we discuss, we really need to, and I try to remember, and I don't, that I'm just a character in this movie too. And we're all playing an important part. And we have to have our scripts. That's the name of the game of the production. And by working on these scripts and working towards becoming infinite consciousness which we already are, says Baba, just stripping away the stuff. That's the deal. You can't help but help Meher Baba in his work. This is what I'm trying to say. No matter what we are going through, no matter the times that we think we are failing, the times that we are forgetting divinity, we're still doing good stuff because we're doing the movie, and it's his movie. And we can get into free will and predestination sometime else, but they're both the same. Everything that has happened to us could not have happened in a different way. That's what Baba says. He's got the plan. It works out. All right. Having said that, that's the context. Let's go to the ordinary world for a while. The other part of the script. Interesting things are happening. Do you think it's given? I know some of you don't necessarily read the newspaper, watch television, go on social media, but those who do can sympathize with the previous Mandali of the Avatark episodes, preferences not to be in this particular part of the Kali Yuga, which is the end of it. And conceivably the worst part of the Kali Yuga in terms of the rise of all the obstacles to unity, polarization in every way, and the development of the great original sins of our time, whether they from all the way to power to greed, you name it, it's around. Simultaneously, it's also the beginning of the new life. Now, at this moment, something's very interesting happening. In Rome, there are a bunch of cardinals of the Roman Catholic faith who are selecting a new pope. The religious leader of about 1.6 billion people, representing, in one sense, a rigidification of spirituality into organized religion, as well as a potential vehicle that Baba has to take care of to as he said, flood all of the rivers, all of the rivers. Now, I tried to get on the spiritual hierarchy social media list, and I couldn't find it. But they and Baba have probably already decided what's going to happen in terms of the Pope and the Catholic movement. Now, the notion of Christians finding out about Meher Baba is a very interesting proposition. And the fact that Meher Baba eventually, and this will be a big one, is going to reshape what had been Catholicism or Christianity in many of its ways. It's very, very interesting. And I'm here to report some coincidences along with the story. Now, what if I told you, I'm going to mention a couple of things. This is an acrostic. It's actually fantastic, but it's not acrostic. Pope Francis has possession of Baba's hair. Number two, it is important to understand the role of St. Francis of Assisi in Baba's work. Number three, there are prelates, figures in authority in the Catholic Church who are Baba lovers. Four, there is a relationship between certain events in Catholicism some legendary, some real, that are very, very interesting. Now, again, this is an interpretation of pieces being put together. Some things I know. And let me tell you a story that, in a way, first got me interested in this whole thing of Mayor Baba's work with so-called other organized religions. Now, we know he's going to blow them up, okay? That's the easy part. We all say, hey, he's going to blow them up, man. They're coming apart. But how's he going to fix it? And what's his interest here? All right. Here's a story. I've told this before, and you may have heard it, but it's now, to me, the times I told it before, it was in a different light. It was very interesting. But now it relates to this whole complex of Mayor Baba's work. It doesn't quite, it has nothing to do with LSD, but we'll get there. So we'll get there today. It happened in the 1970s. I happened to be visiting my parents in western New York State, and I was going back to California. And I got on the plane. I was not in a good mood. My script of the day was crusty at best. And I was tired. It was going to be a long trip. The plane stopped in St. Louis. I sit down in my seat, and I say, okay, I'm just going to rest. And a young lady sits down next to me. And she says, what's this? She tapped me on the shoulder. That's a seat belt. So what do I do with it? I said, oh, no. No. Well, let's put this as good. And then she starts chatting away. I mean, she's a delightful person, but I couldn't get any rest. And but at one point, she said, do you know who's on the plane today? I'm thinking, Fidel Castro? I don't know, it's a bad day. She says, no, Archbishop Fulton Sheen. All right, now, I have to go back. Those of us who are less than 60 probably do not remember that back in the 50s and early 60s, there was a Catholic priest, the Monsignor, who had a network television show. I mean, like 60 Minutes. But all it was talks on theology. His name was Fulton Sheen. And he was such a good orator. And he was so brilliant that the theology he talked about really was interesting almost to anybody who tuned in, even to our little Jewish family. Very famous, got good ratings. He then went on to Rome to become, I don't think this is the exact term, but there's a role called the defender of the faith. They're the disciplinarians about the theology of that's supposed to be correct. He ultimately became a bishop, and he became Archbishop of Rochester, New York diocese. Got in a little trouble there because he started giving away church lands to the poor, which can get you in trouble in organized religion instead of asking for money. So he was very, very famous. And I said, I didn't see him on the plane. And what's he, in first class? She says, no, he's in economy. So I didn't see him. On television, he's this, looks like 6'2", dark black hair, very, very charismatic looking guy. I didn't see anybody look like that. I said, are you sure? And she said, yeah, he's up in there. So then I'm thinking, I'll bet you he knows some secrets of the Vatican. And I know he's a good guy. By the way, he would have been sainted already, would become a saint, but his followers are fighting over where his bones should be. Anyway, so part of me says, maybe I should go up and, give him a Baba card? No. There was a big fight. Two parts of my mind. One said, leave it alone. Leave it alone. You're talking about humiliating yourself, number one. Number two, it's insulting. It'd be insulting, even to suggest that Jesus had come back, and anything like that. The other part said, yeah, but on the other hand, he knows things, and he might want to know something. And I went back and forth 15 minutes. Finally, I decided, okay, I know what I'll do. All I'll do is I'll just walk up, and I happen to have with me a little pamphlet called God in a Pill. It was on, this does relate to drugs, actually. And I'm going to say, well, I'm a psychologist, and I work with kids, and I know you're interested in kids, and maybe you might be interested in this. And I thought if I could pull that off, it would work. Could work. So I walk up in the economy looking for him. And there he is. He's not 6'2", he's about 5'6". He doesn't have black hair, he has gray hair. He's sitting there reading a book. And I quickly do my spiel, and he says, oh, interesting. So please sit down. The only seat on the plane that was vacant was a seat next to him. I said, really? I said, okay, I'll sit next to him. And we started chatting. Lovely, lovely man. Wonderful vibes. And we were talking about things, and youth, etc. And then he looks at me and he says, what do you think we should do about the church? I said, what? You're asking me? My name's Cohen, by the way. I said, well, okay. And so I started to say, I thought, this was not going to get me in too much trouble. The youth of the day were very much seeking and interested in spirituality, and that the church seemed to be turning towards a priority towards social service, nonprofit work. And I said, it might be useful to tell the priests in the diocese to get back to talking spirituality, that youth really are interested in this. And he nodded, and he said, what else? I said, okay, I'm going to go for the gold. I said, because I had to know what he knew. I was really curious. I said, well, the other things we hear from the young people have to do with, how God could allow people to suffer the way they do, and some that never hear of the Christ even, and their entire lives are in a sense for nothing. And so they're thinking it's not fair, and they're very interested in the notion of reincarnation. And I said, so now I'm thinking, I can't ask them out straight, can I? Do you believe in reincarnation? No, I'm not. And even if he did, he wouldn't tell me. But I knew if I phrased it correctly, I could tell by his eyes So I said, I went for the gold. Said, I think it's time for the church to reintroduce the concept of reincarnation. He looked at me. He smiled. Didn't say a thing. And I knew he knew then. This was a clue. So then the flight attendant goes on. So we better start getting ready for that. And I said, Bishop, I really so much enjoyed talking with you. Now I was overconfident. I happened to have in my hand also a copy of one of the volumes, the old time little blue separate copies of the discourses. I said, well, here's something else I think you might be interested in, just in case. He said, oh, thank you. He takes the discourses and he flips it open to the chapter called Violence and Nonviolence. And then I notice the book he was reading. The book was titled Violence and Nonviolence. And he looked at me and said, oh my. And he said, I started looking, maybe I'll do a show on mysticism. And I left. Well, that was really interesting. Then a call comes through. A call comes through from Phyllis Frederick. You probably heard of Phyllis Frederick. Phyllis was publisher of the Awakener magazine and very close disciple of Baba's, and was head of the Los Angeles Baba group. So she said, well, I just had an some interesting correspondence. I said, what, Phyllis? She said, well, I don't know if you've heard of Bishop Fulton Sheen. I said, well, yes. Yes, I have. I'm a big fan of his, she said. And I thought he really should know Baba. So I sent him a picture. I sent him a picture of Baba looking the most Christ-like picture of Baba she could find. She didn't say anything. But she, and again, in history, this will come out. Her journals are someplace in a cave somewhere. But the gist of it is, I thought you might enjoy this image. And she said, I got a response back. So you did? I said, yeah, he just wrote back and said, thanks so much for the lovely photograph of our Lord. And I said, well, that's kind of nice. He said, wait a minute. Photograph? Let me see. Back then, were there cameras? Holy mackerel. So that was very interesting. And I think that was not a slip of the tongue. All right. So, turns out that I do happen to have a copy of the Glow here, advertising, which is an article that included a picture of St. Francis. Now, Pope Francis was a really good guy. Kind of took after, for the first time, named after St. Francis of Assisi. And you all know about St. Francis of Assisi. But he was a heavyweight spiritually. The only perfect master who was born in the West and spent all of his time in the West. And had a very, very powerful effect, not only on the church of that time, but has been revered for a figure for a very, very long time. And I quote here, it's an actual quote. Meher Baba said, one can love Meher Baba as if he were Jesus, or one can have the same love for Meher Baba that St. Francis had for Jesus. Fantastic love. There was a great interest in St. Francis. There were a lot of coincidences, and for example, San Francisco was named after him, for one thing. And to make a long story short, there's more to it, but some of the Murshids of the Sufis, particularly Murshid Akar Khan, got very interested and got together with the daughter of the mayor of San Francisco to see if the Pope would approve of doing a perfect replica of the little chapel in Assisi that St. Francis prayed in and was the center of his activity. They call the Porciuncula. Long story short, it got approved and is now one of the 6 divine locations for Roman Catholics in the world. It turned out that Murshid Khan was somehow invited to an interfaith gathering in New York where Pope Francis was. Got to meet him. And later, maybe tomorrow we'll talk a little bit about some of the Sufi activities. Much of the service work of Sufism has been under kind of the title of following Francis. And we're able to put on dramas and plays and very, very large gatherings of particularly poor students, hundreds of them, thousands of them, that kind of manifested the message of St. Francis in terms of love and service. Then another thing happened. It turned out that there had established a connection between people who were connected with the Pope and a member of the Catholic hierarchy, bishop or archbishop, who was a secret Bible lover, and arranged a meeting in Rome. The meeting was to give the Pope a gift, a very lovely gift of jewelry, a heart, that had inside it Baba's hair. And was presented to him by one of our friends and also one of the senior Baba lover in Mexico at that time. And that was received very, very well. And had we had some nice photographs from it. All these things started to interconnect. And it turned out that the official, who is still functioning in the Catholic hierarchy, had risen to be the chair of the American Bishops' Committee on Interfaith Relations. Little did they know. Anyway, all of this cannot be coincidental. And so we're really interested in what's happening over there. And what Baba is going to do to increase the avataric codes that the church is able to project. And right now, as you know, Meher Baba people, we're not heavy into proselytizing. And Baba really didn't encourage it. He wanted people to know of him. He wanted people to know his name. And he wanted to give everybody who was going to be connected with him in this particular script life, he wanted them to connect at a certain point at a certain time. At the time when their character came on stage. So we're beginning to see aspects of his universal work in all of these phases. We've got the Kali Yuga coming up. Craziness going on. I mean, it's out there. Meanwhile, Baba's influence and his work and a whole new generations of young Baba lovers who are coming along. This is happening. And while he is infusing his essence and his force with sincere seekers on other paths, because there's only one divinity they can worship. That's all. It was his. Yeah, he's not jealous. He's the only non-jealous spiritual figure we know of. Really, it's amazing. And not only that, but he's also the most liberal, the most flexible, and the most forgiving. You can't screw it up. People think they can screw it up, but they can't. It's going to be very, on an individual level. That's why he says, give me all your stuff. I like to see all your scripts. You want to play the bad guy in the life? Go, as long as you're hooked onto me. It's cool. I mean, it would be respectful of others if you could keep it down a bit, But, some people, agents in prisons, etc., they had to do something to get there. So he's saying, hey, whatever. Not to put it too much in the current vernacular or the 60s vernacular. So not at all jealous. And that allows us to feel very comfortable with anyone who loves God in as limited way as possible. Now, on the other hand, it's going to be very hard to screw up Mayor Baba into an organized religion. He's made that very difficult. People will try. They tried in India several times. Several times gurus were trying to say that they were the guru for particular geographical areas and setting themselves up to be Baba's next incarnation, whatever. And because egos are involved, and we're going to talk a little bit about egos this afternoon, I think a little bit more. I really did want to talk about mental health of the characters in the script, because it's inevitable that, people think of suffering often in terms of physical stuff. Physical stuff is nothing compared to mental stuff and emotional stuff. But I always did love it. I always liked this. Baba said, there is no shanti, peace of mind, on this path. If you want peace of mind, then you can get it elsewhere, in another way. You can go for nice long walks, or listen to soothing music, or take sedatives, or go to saints and sadhus. But here's not the place to come for it. For if you come to me, remember that the spiritual path is full of hardships and suffering.